everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're going to be talking all about English listening skills today.
Yeah.
Specifically for all of you out there who are trying to level up.
Right.
You're working on it, you're dedicated, but I bet a lot of you have run into this problem where the materials you find are either way too easy, like they're talking to a child,
Right.
or they just throw you in the deep end.
Yeah, exactly. Like watching the BBC and you're like, what's going on?
Exactly. So we've been doing some research and we actually found this really cool approach called the 3-step strategy.
Yeah.
And it all revolves around listening to a single speaker over and over again.
Yes.
So the goal is to move beyond just memorizing words. It's to actually understand what authentic English sounds like when a real person is speaking.
Right. And it's about finding that sweet spot, where it's challenging enough that it pushes you.
Right.
But it's not so hard that you just get discouraged.
Yeah.
Because if it's too easy,
it's
not preparing you for real conversations, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're learning to swim in a bathtub, that's not going to help you when you jump in the ocean.
I like that.
Right. And on the flip side, if you just jump right into watching, really fast-paced TV shows, it's like being thrown into the ocean without even knowing how to float.
Right. So this problem, this too easy, too hard problem, it seems like it's pretty common.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think so many of these English learning resources out there miss the mark like this?
Well, it's interesting because, the overly simplified stuff, it just lacks that natural rhythm and the vocabulary that real people use.
Okay.
You might be able to understand each individual word.
Right.
But you're not getting the connections between those words.
Gotcha.
So you don't build up that kind of implicit understanding of how English is actually spoken.
Yeah.
And then with the really hard stuff, like a lot of TV shows or even TED Talks.
Right.
You just got this huge amount of new vocabulary.
Right.
That it just overloads your brain.
Right.
You're using all your energy just trying to figure out what each word means.
Yeah.
So you lose the meaning of the whole thing.
Totally. So this 3-step strategy, let's break this down a little bit.
Okay.
Step 1 is to listen to a single speaker over and over again.
Right.
How does that help with all of these problems that we've been talking about?
Well, the key is familiarity, right?
Okay.
So by listening to the same voice repeatedly, discussing things that you actually find interesting at a reasonable pace, your brain starts to internalize their speech patterns.
Okay, yeah.
So you get used to their intonation,
Right.
their common phrases,
Yeah.
It's like building this mental fingerprint of their voice.
Oh, I see.
Imagine, for instance, listening to economic news.
Okay.
Right. The speed's moderate enough that your brain can keep up.
Yeah.
But the content is actually meaningful.
Right.
So you actually remember it.
Yeah.
And this kind of taps into what we call implicit learning.
Okay.
It's where you're absorbing these language patterns without even really trying.
Right.
Just through repetition.
Okay, so why economics, though?
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty specific choice.
Well, what's really cool about economics is that it's actually useful to learn about. Right?
Yeah.
Especially for adults.
Sure.
It comes up all the time in the news and business.
Right.
So it's not just about learning English.
Right.
It's about learning something about the world.
Yeah.
About global trends, about how businesses work.
Right.
And it's also, economics uses a lot of sophisticated vocabulary. That's really helpful in professional settings.
So it's kind of like a double win.
Exactly.
You're learning English, you're learning about economics.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So then step 2
Yeah.
is this idea of a familiar voice and a predictable format.
Yes.
So how does that further reduce this challenge of learning to listen?
Well, think about it this way. Your brain only has so much processing power. Right. So if you're always listening to new voices, different formats, it has to work so much harder to understand what's going on.
Right.
But when you have that familiar voice, on podcasts you listen to regularly, it really reduces that cognitive load.
Okay.
Because you get used to the speaker's rhythm,
right?
How the information is presented.
Yeah.
And then your brain can focus on the actual meaning.
Gotcha. So not just trying to decipher sounds.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Okay. So we built this foundation.
Yeah.
We're listening to the same speaker.
Yeah.
We're familiar with their voice, with the format of the show.
Right.
What's that crucial third step that allows us to go beyond that? So the final step is to gradually transition to more diverse and challenging content.
Okay.
So things like real news broadcasts, where you have multiple speakers,
right?
Maybe some interviews with people who have different accents.
Okay, right.
Right. But because you've built up this strong foundation, by listening to that single speaker repeatedly, you're going to be able to approach those more complex situations with so much more confidence.
Right.
And you'll be better at picking up those different speech patterns.
Okay.
The different styles of speaking.
So it's like this step-by-step approach. So you build a solid foundation, and then you start branching out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the key principles here seem to be, you want authentic input, but you want it to be manageable.
Yes.
So you're not overloading your brain.
Exactly.
And the content needs to be relevant to your life.
Right. Especially for adults.
Yeah.
Who are...
Is he?
And, they need to see the value in what they're learning.
Totally. Totally. All right. Well, that's a powerful takeaway. Now, consider this.
Yeah.
How could you apply this to your own learning journey?
That's a good question.
Think about identifying a specific area that you're really interested in.
Yeah.
Maybe it's technology, maybe it's history, maybe it's even a specific hobby. And then actively seek out an expert.
Yeah.
Who talks about it regularly.
Right.
Whether it's a podcast, whether it's videos. And listen to them over and over again.
Right.
You could dramatically improve your English listening skills.
Yeah.
But you could also become really knowledgeable in that field.
Exactly. You get the double win.
It's a win-win. All right, well, thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.